Take your time. Focus on the equation. You're going to do great.
I love you.
I love you so much.
What if only the smartest boys and girls got to live here?
There are those that say the thinning is barbaric. Is it barbaric to be the best?
All grades are final. Here are the results.
No. Okay, let's go.
Lena Michaels. What?
Ellie Harper.
Isn't that what you do? Kill?
Killed? Why do you use that word?
All right, what is the Trilateral Commission?
It's an organization founded in 1973 by David Rockefeller to bring together business and political leaders from the United States, Europe, Japan, so they could work together for better economic and political cooperation between their nations.
Well, that's what they'd like us to believe. But you see, what they're really up to is a scheme to plant their own loyal members in positions of power in this country, to work to erase national boundaries and create an international community, and in time bring about a one-world government with David Rockefeller calling the shots.
The Club of Rome comprises some 70 men of widely varying backgrounds, but their common concern is that the world problems cannot be solved by individual nations. I spoke with Professor Hugo Tiemann, director of the Battelle Institute, Geneva, Dr. Aurelio Pache, founder of the club, and Dr. Alexander King, director of the World Bank and the United Nations OECD. Dr. King, now you're describing the world as a closed system where all these things are interrelated, and yet the government, the control of the system is by individual nation states. Now, how do you convince them to cooperate?
The sovereignty of these nations is no longer as absolute as it was. There's a gradual diminishing, whittling away of sovereignty, little bit by little bit. Especially, of course, in the smaller countries, where it's more obvious. But the bigger countries have to do a good deal of this by agreeing to international arrangements for the law of the seas, or for the limits of fishing, or for control of the wavelengths in radio, and 101 other things. But especially in the technological field, I think this is going to be increasingly so because of developments next year. I was at an important meeting in Washington a couple of weeks ago, and Peterson, the former Secretary of Commerce, was saying the same thing from an economic point of view, that the general world economic situation, the interdependence of countries on their food and fuels and so on, is leading to an interdependence which has seeds of draining away of sovereignty within it. So I don't think one can envisage an idealistic of jumping to a world federalism or anything of that sort. But the building up probably in the next decade in a number of particularly sensitive fields like energy, raw materials, the use of the oceans, space and so on, of a number of what people are tending to call regimes, which will not be ordinary United Nations type of organizations, but semi-management organizations. There'll be a great deal of consent in them.
Dr. Pache views the European common market as an elementary example of the kind of regional cooperative which is going to be necessary. What responsibilities does he see for Australia?
Australia, you are in a splendid position.
What should we do?
You have food, energy, space. You are distant from other centers, so you can, for a longer time, feel rather more independent than interdependent. But things of the world are going so fast that I think that an enlightened leadership in Australia should see down the road that Australia will have to lose some of its on self-decisions in order to acquire something else which may be purely political in very wide sense, or maybe also security.
The Club of Rome is reluctant to point the finger at any one nation. Yet clearly nations like the United States, which consumes approximately 60% of the world's resources, will in the club's view have to accept a severe cutback in its voracious appetite. But the club's utterances are cloaked in a velvet democracy, in the hope that their facts will gently persuade.
We will ask who is making the decision, and whether the decision makers of today, whether they perceive the problems, what kind of problems, and the interactions of the problems. That's a very pragmatic approach.
Has the time come, Dr. King, when we're going to have to say we can no longer entrust our resources and the exploitation of those resources to private enterprise? Has the time come when governments will simply have to take more control?
Simple nationalization and things like that wouldn't help at all, because we've got to keep an incentive approach. And many of the good aspects of private enterprise are very necessary here, but not in the old exploitative way where the market forces dominated the whole situation.
Dr. Pichai, can you tell me what my lifestyle will be in 100 years' time? What sort of car I'll drive, what sort of house I'll live in, what sort of food I'll be eating?
Probably you will have a smaller car. You will use more common transport means. You will work far less hours. You will have a wider cultural possibilities that today. You will not be so much pressed by immediate needs, because through technology, organization of the markets, the basic needs will be taken care of. And I think that you will love nature and continue then what I think you are doing now to protect our environment, to avoid this man-made world where the creatures of nature, the animals, the plants, the green spaces, the wildernesses are bound to disappear.
To the Club of Rome, the status symbols of the year 2000 will be the inverse of today's. Prestige will stem from low consumption. That personal consumption will have to be less is plain enough, but for that privation to be seen as prestigious would seem to indicate some radical rethinking, at least for the fat cats.
We truly are living in incredible times. I believe we're seeing the greatest rift in humanity that has ever existed. We are literally seeing a dividing taking place. Sheep and goats, wheat and tares, good versus evil. This system has politicized every aspect of our lives in an attempt to further divide us. Here's a quote from Professor Klaus Schwab. He's the founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum. He states here, the pandemic represents a rare but narrow window of opportunity to reflect, reimagine, and reset our world. And this is exactly what they want and what they need to do, to have that finalized one world Antichrist beast system. Here's another image of Klaus Schwab, and this just came online a few days ago. When I first saw this, I couldn't help but think about all of the dystopian films I've seen about these future societies that are a one world Antichrist beast type system.
Logan, you wonder a lot. Too much for a Sandman.
Enter the carousel. This is the time of renewal.
I've never killed anyone in my life. Sandmen terminate runners.
Be strong, and you will be renewed. Do you identify this word, sanctuary?
It's also an interesting point to make that many of these dystopian films have to do with the end of pregnancy, depopulation, essentially eugenics. And speaking of The Handmaid's Tale, which is one of these stories all about eugenics and depopulation, pay attention to the symbolism we see here. It's a top view of one of the handmaids on top of the 8-pointed star. For many years, I've considered the 8-pointed star one of the most common symbols of the beast system. It's called the Star of Ishtar. This 8-pointed star can be found in artwork, movies, TV shows. We see it all the time, but barely recognize it. It also connects us to Mother Goddess worship as well.
And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my sisters. And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon you.
Yeah, I didn't know that. How is it a lucky number?
13 is the age when, that's why boys get bar mitzvahed at the age of 13, by the way. It's the age when the soul gets completely, like, sort of solidified in your bodies. When you come into your own.
Is this one of those Kabbalah things?
Uh-huh. Yeah, it is.
So you've been doing some spiritual searching?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have a party, like a Kabbalah party in New York? I saw that there was like an invitation of some sort, didn't you?
In New York? No. I had a cocktail party.
A Kabbalah cocktail party?
Kabbalah.
Kabbalah, sorry.
Yeah. Well, Kabbalah if you're Israeli, I guess.
The Kabbalah is a collection of Jewish magical texts which were given to mankind via psychic communion with a fallen angel called Raziel. Raziel is one of a pantheon of so-called fallen angels who serve the light-bringer Lucifer. The Kabbalah describes the many angels and demons who inhabit the spiritual realm. The Kabbalah gives Kabbalists a roadmap called the Tree of Life, which explains how to invoke and communicate with these powerful spirits. The magical information in the Kabbalah originates from Babylon and ancient Egypt at the time of the pharaohs, but did not reach Europe in printed form until the 11th and 12th centuries. The sacred books of the Kabbalah are just a few thousand words long, but they contain complex descriptions of a spherical Earth, parallel universes, and the atomic nature of matter, ideas which have become common doctrine amongst modern physicists and astronomers. How could such complex information be contained in a group of ancient texts barely larger than an average magazine? The answer is that the Kabbalah is written in code. Codes are used to conceal multi-layered complex information which would later be studied by medieval alchemists. Sir Isaac Newton and many leading scientists studied the rich occult sciences within the Kabbalah. There was a time when mysticism, religion, alchemy, astronomy, and astrology were studied as one Kabbalistically based tradition. Jewish physicist Albert Einstein conveyed pages and pages of complex calculations in a simple 5-symbol code. E equals mc squared. Modern-day quantum physics, chaos theory, and the notion of parallel universes can all be traced back to the original texts of the ancient Kabbalah. The higher secrets of the Kabbalah included instructions on how to kill a person with just one look. This is called the evil eye. Since medieval times, the Jewish people have been considered a race of magicians. The biblical rabbis used shaman-type techniques to induce altered states of consciousness. Fasting, flagellation, and burying oneself up to the neck were all techniques used to prepare the rabbi-magician for a battle through the 7 portals of the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, where they would eventually meet the supreme deity in a realm called the Merkaba. Ritual sex magic was also practiced amongst some Jewish cults. Many temples had holes in the walls so that rabbis could ritually sodomize a prostitute, a young man or a boy, and invoke the fallen angel Raziel as they reached sexual climax. The word sodomy is derived from the name of the biblical city of Sodom, in which sex magic and also blood sacrifice were widely practiced. A strange version of vampirism, or blood drinking, is still practiced to this day by many rabbis, who suck the blood from the freshly severed foreskin of newborn babies. The collection of texts called the Kabbalah were eventually transcribed by Rabbi Isaac the Blind in Provence in the south of France during the 12th century. For the first time in its 6,000-year history, the ancient magical techniques of invoking fallen demonic angels and killing someone using the evil eye were put down on paper. The Kabbalistic writings of Isaac the Blind fell into the hands of a group of 9 French noblemen. These noblemen became known as the Knights Templar. The word cabal, meaning a group who conspire together, comes from the word Kabbalah. One such cabal, who were to later inspire a whole armada of black magic cults and Freemasonry, were the so-called Knights Templar. They laughingly called themselves the Poor Knights of Christ, but these men were far from poor. They deliberately styled themselves as monks so that they could go about their Luciferian Kabbalistic studies and conduct business without being taxed nor arouse suspicion from the Vatican. The Kabbalistic higher secrets of ritual sodomy, the evil eye, chanting incantations, necromancy, blood sacrifice, and invoking the fallen angels in service to Lucifer fascinated the French Knights Templar. They realized that the Kabbalah originated in Palestine, and once they had realized that the Kabbalah was the key to untold spiritual magical power, they cunningly planned a bloody crusade to Palestine in order to search for more Kabbalistic and magical artifacts. They eventually discovered and looted the Temple of Solomon. Solomon was a biblical magician king who is accredited with inspiring large parts of the corpus of works we now know as the Kabbalah. The Knights Templar arrived in Palestine with one main goal: to stop the Muslims from gaining any knowledge about the Kabbalah. Historical Islamic oral accounts from the 12th century testify to a sickening crusade of plunder, torture, murder, and sexual depravity. The Knights Templar, once they had discovered the magical teachings of the Kabbalah, were dedicated utterly to destroying its origins so that they might hold its secrets exclusively.
What do you want?
We'd like you to help plan the news for 1973.
Come again?
Plan the news for 1973. 1973. We've only roughed out the news for 1973. Nothing's been given the go-ahead yet, but this is the kind of thing we have in mind.
You
you've always thought you couldn't bear press-on nails because of all the active things you do? Well, if you're ready for beautiful, natural-looking, easy-to-apply nails, pre-colored in 7 luscious hues, just...
Our impulses are being redirected. We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep.
Oh, goddamn hacker, that second damn night that asshole's cut in.
The movement was begun 8 months ago by a small group of scientists who discovered, quite by accident, these signals being sent through...
Thing's giving me a headache. Yeah, tell me about it. Must took the hackers months to figure out how to do this.
The poor and the underclass are growing. Racial justice and human rights are non-existent. They have created a repressive society, and we are their unwitting accomplices. Their intention to rule rests with the annihilation of consciousness. We have been lulled into a trance. They have made us indifferent to ourselves, to others. We are focused only on our own gain. Please understand, they are safe as long as they are not discovered. That is their primary method of survival. Keep us asleep, keep us selfish, keep us sedated. They're pulling the...
Today, April 14, 1973. First historic pictures by Radstar of the combined U.S.-Russian landing on the moon. Shown here are Majors Webb and Mikhailovich taking their first steps into the unknown, firing their retro-rockets to land their spacecraft on the dust-covered surface. A comforting note for us stay-at-homes, both the Pentagon and the Kremlin have announced that the moon has no strategic value.
A comforting note for us stay-at-home. I can't show you any film on this next model. We haven't photographed it yet. But this is the way it will sound.
June the 22nd, 1973. The State Department releases film of the ultimate weapon, codenamed Icarus. This satellite is equipped with a solid reactor. In layman's terms, it can freeze air solid, stopping all missiles, killing all forms of life. Icarus orbits at the same speed as the Earth, can hang in position over every major city that threatens the peace-loving nations.
Rather proud of this one. Come on. Please, sit down.
September the 5th, 1973. A new phase in global warfare. War by example. At 4:32 our time, China took out the remote Indian border village of Bandar, unprotected by the Icarus network. After the first 2 5-megaton H-bombs had fallen, the 9-way hotline finally
switch it off.
But
this is going to happen in 1973. You're going to make this happen?
No. We're going to make models much cheaper. Then we photograph the models.
Fake newsreels?
Fake newsreels. For the past 10 years, people have been looking at our fake newsreels and listening to our fake commentaries.
And they accept it for the truth. And you can do it. Stop 100 people in the street. How many of them have actually seen a missile or a satellite? They're just told they exist and they believe it.
Yes, you're getting there. I knew you would.
This is a very, very telling advertisement that the avocado people are airing on the Super Bowl tomorrow. And I got this one up because, you know, we all remember this, right? The avocado commercial. how they are all the secret society, you know, about the moon and Bigfoot and all these various things, right? He stops the sound effects on 23, the whole thing. You know, we've been over it. There are some excellent breakdowns of it. The avocado aspect of it, representing the woman, the womb, the whole thing. Now, I'm going to show you their new commercial, and then we'll talk about it. This is brand new to me. You guys are only this will be the second watch for me. And all I can say is basically hold on to your britches, because they're telling it all. They're telling it all right here. Just watch this. First, let's look at where it starts here. The beehive. The hexagonal beehive here. I mean, look at it. It's like, can it be more in your face? A dome beehive, folks. Now listen closely and watch, please.
Well, we did it. We sealed the bad out and the good in. Take a second and look around you. Go ahead. We have everything we've always wanted. We'll want for nothing.
Excuse me. I really love it here.
Thank you.
We have all these beautiful avocados from Mexico, but where are the chips?
I'm sorry?
The chips. The chips are outside.
Why are they outside?
The chips are outside!
I want a Chris Elliott autograph. Wait!
Please, avocados taste great on lots of things. See? Avocado toast. We can still make this work.
Oh, Wi-Fi's down.
No.
Avocados from Mexico.
All right. Now, now that you got a mind full of that, my initial reaction to this is they are showing us basically their plan for after what's coming, and that it's coming soon. So they start off by telling everybody we've sealed out the bad and kept in the good.
Well, we did it. We sealed the bad out and the good in.
We sealed the bad out and the good in. Mm-hmm.
And look around you. Go ahead. We have everything we've always wanted. We'll want for nothing.
Excuse me.
We'll want for nothing.
We have all these beautiful avocados from Mexico, but where are the chips?
I'm sorry?
The chips. The chips are outside.
Why are they?
So they've created this utopia, and now they've discovered that there are no chips for the avocados. Okay? Now, this can be a metaphor for so many things, people. But what I'm seeing it as, my first impression, as the grace. The grace period has been shut out. Okay? And there's reasons why I say that. If we continue watching here.
The chips are outside!
Watch them now. Look it. You see that? He rents his garment. He shaves his head.
I want a Chris Elliott.
The only thing missing is no one's throwing dust on their heads. Okay? They are lamenting. They are very remorseful and sorrowful. And now angry and going absolutely bananas. So this is what is coming. And when the world realizes they missed the boat, you think this is not going to happen?
Autograph?
Smearing help in avocado guts. I mean, think about this, folks. Really, think about it.
Wait! Please, avocado!
Oh yeah, you get. I'm not even going to stop there. But now we have the rulers, the kings, all telling us to calm down. Calm down now.
Avocados taste great on lots of things. See? Avocado toast.
It's funny how she says avocado toast right at 46 seconds. that, man, I can't wait to do somebody to do a thorough breakdown of this. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. All I know is this is showing us.
We can still make this work.
Yeah. We can still make it work.
Oh, Wi-Fi's down.
But then the Wi-Fi's down. Do you see where I'm coming from here? They are just mocking the sheep to no end. Because they know what's coming.
Well, now the moon rocket and the satellite, that you can get away with. That's too remote for people to grasp. It's too far away. But this... I mean, you invented this village on the Indo-Chinese border. Well, somebody could check up.
Very mountainous territory up there. There'll be no survivors in 1973. No rescue work. Radiation scare.
Yes. You can do it. This could be the news for 1973.
Not necessarily exactly like this. We only plan in detail 1 year ahead.
Oh, you only plan 1 year ahead.
Hey, tell me, what is the news item that's bothered you the most in the past year, 1967?
Oh, well, it has to be the new American intercontinental ballistic missile, the Boy Wonder, doesn't it?
Just the one I asked him to set up for you. The new ICBM, codename Boy Wonder, with a much talked about Mercury warhead. I haven't any special effects up here, but perhaps with the proper sound. Blast off. And Robert Larkin, television director, high IQ, 35 years old, is scared. Scared by nothing. It doesn't work. It's a scientific impossibility. The same goes for the much talked about Mercury warhead. Perspex.
Well, if this rocket doesn't work, then the others?
They have a fireworks party at Cape Kennedy almost every other day. Well, you didn't really believe there were all these things whizzing about up there, did you? Sputniks and rockets. Astronauts crossing their legs for 8 days.
How long has this been going on?
Since Hiroshima.
And the H-bomb, you mean, that doesn't work either?
Right. Dirty.
Very, very dirty.
What was your first reaction? Relief. Oh, yes. Yes, it has to be relief. Only 12 people are allowed beyond this point. Most of them work in the photographic department, taking phony newsreel pictures of our models and processing film and so on. Sit down, please. Ah, pretty pictures from our stills department. The Boy Wonder.
Do you really think that missiles and satellites are mile out of country?
No, not at all. I've only shown you the hard news. There are other things, much softer things we thought might interest you.
Well?
1973, we thought it might be time for an anti-teenage movement. A long-awaited return to maturity. Sherry. Perhaps even a religious revival.
When did it all start?
1945. You may remember the Americans let off their 2 atomic bombs. Well, they didn't want other people doing the same thing. I mean, you do see that, don't you?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, to scare the people off, the Americans put it out that the atomic bomb was halfway along the line to something much bigger, the hydrogen bomb. It didn't work. They spent 5 years in negative research.
Well, what about the Russians? They're supposed to have quite a pile of these things.
We were surprised when they started their tests. Then we got a few feelers from their Secret Service. Nowadays, we work very closely together. Oh, all these stories about spies going off to Russia. Mr. Philby, remember? Just good copy for the Sunday papers.
Good copy.
Something we've studied here on this channel for many years is the power of the symbols and how oftentimes the symbols are in another language. So keeping that in mind, it's really important to note that the 9-pointed star is on the podium, and we also have the 9-pointed star on his vest. But what is the 9-pointed star? What does it mean? It's interesting when we look up the definition of the nine-pointed star, and we see how much the definition actually applies to what we're seeing right here. This man is very clearly one of them. He's one of the secret society globalists. So wait until you see what the nine-pointed star actually means, and a lot of this is going to make more sense. So it's really interesting and very telling whenever we look up the definition of the nine-pointed star, the enneagram. Right here it says the enneagram is a fusion of all that. It's used of the pursuit of knowledge and cosmic deities. The enneagram is also a study on the good side and bad side of people, which seeks to achieve the mental equilibrium without the help of God. The triangle of masonry combined with the pentacle forms the enneagram, representing the satanic trinity. The Baha'i faith and Freemasonry are conspiring together to create world government. All the strategic positions within the United Nations are occupied by someone who belongs to one of these sects. The only way to imprison the human being will be through that sign. The enneagram causes mental imbalance because people will not be guided by God but by the devil. The devil may be in both light and in darkness, the light when it can give a false sense of peace, and in the darkness when a feeling of hatred or empty. Therefore, a nine-pointed star is fundamental to the spiritual imprisonment of mankind. So when we come back to Klaus Schwab, this guy that looks to be dressed like some kind of a New World Order priest, also when looking over to the bull on the podium, Sol Invictus is the invincible sun, whose sacrifice of the bull brings light and creation. What you're looking at is an element of the cult of Mithras. So here we have a man who is openly calling for the New World Order, wearing what seems to be some kind of dark priest garb. And once again, some people are saying that this has been used for professors in that area in the past. But regardless of that, he has the symbolism on him. He has the symbolism on the podium. And this man is calling for a New World Order Antichrist beast system, a great reset. And beyond the symbols, interpreting the Latin that's on the podium, it actually reads, knowledge of immense power. And here's another example of how we're programmed by their symbolism. In The Handmaid's Tale and many of these other dystopian films, including Children of Men, off the top of my head, it's all about depopulation and sterilization and the end of humanity, really. But either way, I find it interesting that this is a part of the programming we've been under for many years in our media and popular entertainment. And now we see that this system is going to be forcing us at one point or another to take this vax scheme. And now we're finding the story here, where it seems to be causing sterility, or there's a possibility of it causing sterility in 97% of women.
I think you'd better wake up, ladies and gentlemen. For there has always been a secret destiny of America, and it has never been what you have always seemed to think. America has always been headed and directed and guided by the hand of the Illuminati. It was formed for the purpose of giving the common man, for the first time in the history of the world, real freedom. And once that revolutionary effect reverberated around the world, it toppled the kings and queens and princes from their thrones exactly as it was designed to do. And now they are in the process of going about their business of taking that freedom back from the common man and cementing their ties that they have made in the power structure of all the nations of the world to dissolve all the existing religions, all existing nation states, to shackle the mob and bring about their final victory, their utopian socialist world government, which they call the Golden Dawn, the New World Order.
Welcome to your life. There's no turning back. Even while we sleep, we will find find you acting on your best behavior. Turn your back on Mother Nature. Everybody wants through the world. Everybody wants to the world. Everybody wants to the Everybody wants to the Everybody wants to the Everybody wants to the
I'm in show business, yes? Why come to me?
Well, I'll tell you why, Mr. Morse. 5445, what does that mean?
It's a slogan. It's from the...
Remember the Maine?
Yeah, that's gotta be...
Tippecanoe and Tyler, too.
No, that's not the...
Well, they're war slogans, Mr. Morse. We remember the slogans, we can't even remember the fucking wars. You know why?
Why?
That's show business. That's why we're here.
I see.
Naked girl, covered in napalm. V for victory. 5 Marines raising the flag. Mount Suribachi. You remember the picture 50 years from now, you'll have forgotten the war.
True.
The Gulf War, smart bomb falling down a chimney, 2,500 missions a day, 100 days. One video of one bomb, Mr. Morse. The American people bought that war. War is show business. That's why we're here.
And what do you do for the president? Why Albania?
Why not?
They gotta know at some point.
Who?
Who? The public.
They gotta know?
Yes.
Stan, get with it. Who killed Kennedy? I read the first draft of the Warren Report. It says he was killed by a drunk driver. You watch the Gulf War. What do you see day after day? The one smart bomb falling down a chimney. The truth? I was in the building when we shot that shot. We shot it in a studio, Falls Church, Virginia, 1/10 scale model of a building.
Is that true?
How the fuck do we know? You take my point?
Yes. All right. Okay. And you want me to do what?
We want you to produce.
You want me to produce your war?
Not a war, it's a pageant. We need a theme, a song, some visuals. We need, it's a pageant. It's like the Oscars, that's why we came to you.
And here it is, the greatest advance in television since color television itself. See all color shows in living color. Once you've adjusted fine-tuning for each channel.
So there we see that it means that you can subdue a people, you can control a people by secret influence. That goes on to say under charm, to subdue by secret power, especially by that which pleases and delights the mind. So under charm there it says power to subdue opposition and gain the affections. But remember in the story of Wizard of Oz, how the Wicked Witch was having difficulty subduing her opponent. And finally she said, I know what I shall do. I take this crystal ball. She spreads her hands across the crystal ball and she creates a lovely poppy field. Oh, so beautiful. And Dorothy, the lion, the scarecrow, the Tin Man, going across this lovely poppy field, fall to what? Sleep. Is it possible that that's not just story? Is it possible that the crystal ball sits in the living room of every home practically in America?
You changing us in our society for the better? Does it empower all of us, like it claims to? Or does it only empower a select few at the expense of the many? What's the price we pay to live in this pervasive electronic world? This era is unprecedented, and perhaps never before has technology been so prolific and shaped our lives so intimately. The me has been a target of corporate power for a long time. Advertising after the Second World War changed into instilling desires and manipulating the masses to want things and see the world in a certain way. From where the computer and the internet originated, this is in hyperdrive of the world of the screen culture, where not only the convergence of technologies has amplified the power and influence of corporate voice, the screen culture provides a centralized mechanism of social control, pretending to be freedom and democracy.
We tend to think about the internet as this sort of medium where anybody can connect to anyone. It's this very democratic medium. It's a free-for-all, and it's so much better than that old society with the gatekeepers that were controlling the flows of information. Really, that's not how it's panning out. And what we're seeing is that a couple big companies are really, most of the information is flowing through a couple big companies that are acting as the new gatekeepers. These algorithms do the same thing that the human editors do. They just do it much less visibly and with much less accountability.
And with a level of fine-tuning and individual customization never before possible.
They have a lot of the same dynamics that are driving what they show people and what they hide from people as the old media did. How these things are architected have huge consequences that are political.
The filter bubble puts you at the center of what seems like a vast world of connectivity and relevance. But really, you're in a walled information garden, a holding cell of two-way mirrors, a giant echo chamber. What happens to our communities, our relationships, the culture, if we're all walking around in mirror cocoons with this hyper-individualism, this lack of collective awareness?
There's this thing called confirmation bias, which is basically our tendency to feel good about information that confirms what we already believe. And you can actually see this in the brain. People get a little dopamine hit when they're told that they're right, essentially. And so, if you were able to construct an algorithm that could show people whatever you wanted, and if the only purpose was actually to get people to click more and to view more pages, why would you ever show them something that, makes them feel uncomfortable, makes them feel like they may not be right, makes them feel like there's more to the world than our own little narrow ideas?
As we willingly pour our lives into the screens not only simply reflect this more of the same, it's strengthening corporate power, studying and analysing us inside this playpen, projecting into our individually targeted mirror world. We become the product of the consumer culture in totality.
There's a myth online that what we're doing is free. All that's happened is the place that revenue and value is extracted from us has been shifted.
Everything we do on a computer produces a transaction record. Right? Whether it's your laptop, whether it's your phone, whether it's an ATM machine, a toll booth, using your credit card, anything with a computer creates a transaction record. Right? Data is a byproduct of all of our information society socialization. Increasingly, companies, computers are mediating all of our social interactions. And all of this data is increasingly stored and increasingly searchable.
And this is not only where social control centers from via a screen culture. It's where our value is ultimately extracted, turned into huge profits. And we think this is a good deal. We get so much for what we think is free. Think about your digital trails. What did you do today that involved a computer, a screen, your choice or not? The screens are always watching, saving. Example. When you browse the web, if a page has that like button, Facebook collects information about where you visit. Even if you're not on Facebook, the fact that you've been somewhere, Facebook knows, because the like button is there. And even if you don't click, it's been loaded from Facebook's servers. They know. And this information's used to shape your experience. The same is true for Google. The millions upon millions of websites that run Google Ads, or use Google Analytics software, or make use of any Google code, YouTube video, search buttons or images. If anything touches Google, Google knows. Think about all of those websites across the internet that these companies track, analyze, dominate and influence. How are our lives shaped by this? And how do we even know what's happening behind the scenes? We've become so sparing in our understanding of these technologies, these corporate interests, and how they wrap around our lives. What happens when I click this button?
The product online is not the content. The product online is you. The product online are the eyeballs looking at that content and as much information about how to influence the hands connected to those eyeballs as possible.
Cruel social media remarks. Facebook comments have been pouring in after 4 people died while hiking.
So you're dealing with an addicted generation.
This is a big time bomb ticking.
These kids who commit suicide, you go look at their Instagrams, you would have no clue.
Mr. Zuckerberg, would you be comfortable sharing with us the name of the hotel you stayed in last night?
No. People who spend more time on Facebook suffer higher rates of depression than people who spend less time on Facebook. It'll destroy relationships, it'll cost time, and it'll cost money, and it'll make your life worse.
To be human means that you are persuadable in every single moment. It doesn't matter what language you speak, it doesn't matter how intelligent you are. It's not about what someone knows, it's about how your mind actually works.
We now know that many of the major social media companies hire individuals called attention engineers who borrow principles from Las Vegas casino gambling, among other places, to try to make these products as addictive as possible.
We are all vulnerable to social approval. We really care what other people think of us. When you upload a new photo of yourself on Facebook, that's a moment where our mind is very vulnerable to knowing what other people think of my new profile photo. And so when we get new likes on our profile photo, Facebook, knowing this, could actually message me and say, oh, you have new likes on your profile photo. It knows that we'll be vulnerable to that moment because we all really care about when we're tagged in a photo or when we have a new profile photo. I mean, I think we can all feel it. And it's as if we've been infected. It's if they've drilled a hole in the back of our head and now they've injected the virus and now we walk around searching for feedback using social media.
We know that engagement with social media and our cell phones releases a chemical called dopamine. Dopamine is the exact same chemical that makes us feel good when we smoke, when we drink, and when we gamble. In other words, it's highly, highly addictive. You have an entire generation that has access to an addictive, numbing chemical called dopamine through social media and cell phones as they're going through the high stress. They don't have the coping mechanisms to deal with stress. So when significant stress starts to show up in their lives, they're not turning to a person, they're turning to social media, They're turning to these things which offer temporary relief. We know, the science is clear, we know that people who spend more time on Facebook suffer higher rates of depression than people who spend less time on Facebook. That's a problem. That's an addiction. If you're sitting in a meeting with people you're supposed to be listening to and speaking, and you put your phone on the table, you're just not that important to me, right? So you have an addicted generation that doesn't have the skill set to ask for help. Combined with the fact that they're so good at Facebook and Instagram, they're good at putting filters on everything. So they're good at showing you how smart and strong they are. These kids who commit suicide, you go look at their Instagrams, you would have no clue that they were depressed.
People look like they have a much better life than they really do. People are posting pictures of when they're really happy. They're modifying those pictures to be better looking. People basically seem they're way better looking than they basically really are, and they're way happier seeming than they really are. So if you look at everyone on Instagram, you might think, they're all these happy, beautiful people, and I'm not that good looking and I'm not happy, so I must suck. Some of the happiest seeming people, actually some of the saddest people in reality.
Social media isn't real, but you don't ever see real life, the 99% of our lives, the behind the scenes, the unglamorous, unfiltered, day-to-day, bland normality. And you end up comparing your behind the scenes to other people's fake highlight reel and using others as a mirror or benchmark for how you should look, how successful you should be, or how you should live. You'll become your happiest self when you stop putting pressure on yourself to be more like someone else.
And they know that this causes depression. They're injecting things into your head that you didn't ask for. Our lives are becoming more transparent, just inevitably. It's just pulling us.
It'll destroy relationships, it'll cost time, and it'll cost money, and it'll make your life worse.
If you've messaged anybody this week, would you share with us the names of the people you've messaged?
No.
Oh yes! Oh yes! Alex! Watch out, guys! Hello, heads up!
Stare into the lights, my pretties. The society of the spectacle. Captive populations glued to screens, engineered with ever-increasing precision and insight.
The basic fundamental paradigm of advertising is called one-to-one marketing. That's what was made possible by the internet. I can know everything you do and I can reach you at any point. First, in the 90s, it was when you were in front of a computer. But now, because of the growth of the internet and especially mobile devices, I can reach you 24/7. I can reach you and your friends, and I can target you, and I can engage in invisible digital behavior modification.
What sort of ministry of truth style world actually exists and would be perpetuated because of these huge, powerful engines? An extensive influence over the information streams accessed by billions of people. Today, in the United States, more than 85% of adults get their news from social media, and 64% get news from only one source, usually Facebook. And so the behavior modification doesn't just end with advertising, buying stuff, and how we'd be shaped into accepting a single news feed. The mega machine is much bigger than that. corporate forces make huge profits, not only off the data about who we are and what we do, and by shaping us to be subservient consumers, and the cycle goes round and round.
Everybody wants to It's my own desire. It's my own remorse. Help me to decide. Help me make the most of freedom and of pleasure. Nothing ever lasts forever. Everybody wants to rule the world. Everybody wants to rule the world. Everybody wants to rule the world. The world. Everybody wants to rule the world.
Let me define dualism really quick. In the way that they believe it, it means the equality of opposites. And not only that, it also means that the existence of one thing hinges upon the existence of its opposite. So it's almost like the two opposites are one whole. You can't have one without the other. Like you'll always hear them saying things like, you can't have good without evil, or you can't have light without dark. And so like the yin and the yang would be a perfect representation of that. You have these two opposites that form one whole, and that's how they view reality. That reality is made up of opposites, and that these opposites form our reality, and that if you took one of the opposites away, you wouldn't be able to have the other one. But most people who get into studying this kind of topic with the whole Illuminati and the many facets of that have already noticed these dualistic portrayals in the content that they're making. And I would say it goes beyond that. It's not just about the traditional dualism that most people are thinking about. It's not just about equality of opposites. It's not just about opposites balancing one another out. No, it goes beyond that. So what they believe is kind of like the Hegelian dialectic. So in the Hegelian dialectic, you have the thesis and you have its antithesis. So you have something and then its opposite, essentially. But then in the Hegelian dialectic, it doesn't stop there. Those don't just sit there opposed to each other. In the Hegelian dialectic, you merge the two, the thesis and the antithesis, and you achieve synthesis from that. It's like you take the two opposites, you combine them and merge them into one. And don't get me wrong here, this isn't like the yin-yang, where you have, the white side and the black side, and there's a little bit of the yin in the yang, there's a little bit of yang in the yin. No, what they're talking about is actually commingling all of it. They would take the white side and the black side and just completely amalgamate all of it into one, so that you would almost have like a gray circle, and that's all that would be left. They're not talking about the balancing of opposites. They're talking about taking opposites and making them into one new whole. So that's the difference between your traditional dualism and what they're teaching. And they call this the great work. Aleister Crowley taught this, and people that influenced him and all kinds of people in the occult have been teaching this for a long time. That essentially, and here's the big kicker, the thing that they won't tell you, they believe that when you finish this great work, and what the great work is combining and merging, synthesizing all opposites into one whole. And they believe that when you complete this great work, that you'll achieve apotheosis, that man will become God. And even that in and of itself is the same dualism that we were just talking about. God and man are complete opposites, and that's what they're trying to achieve with the great work. They're trying to merge the two and make them one. But the crazy thing is how they actually plan to accomplish all this. And you have to view it through the eyes of Gnosticism, because like I said, they're Gnostics. And what Gnostics believe is the physical physical realm is actually just a construct. It's not the real realm. There's actually a realm above it filled with gods and goddesses. And the lowest of all the gods and goddesses, Sophia, created the demiurge. And demiurge means the creator. The demiurge is the one who created this construct, the physical realm. And they would say that he is the God of the Old Testament. And they would say also that he's a deceiver. He's trying to deceive mankind into believing that he's the only God. And actually, the Gnostics would say, there are many gods and goddesses above him. And actually, there's another realm beyond the play Roma, where the source God, I wouldn't even call him God because he's not a person, he's actually just a force.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
Anakin, may the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you, Master.
May the Force be with you both.
May the Force be with you, Master.
May the Force be with you.
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 May the Force be with us.
May the Force be with you.
And may the Force be with us.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be... You know I've said it enough.
May the Force be with you, always.
And essentially everything comes out from him. All those gods and goddesses down the line come from him. What they believe about the demiurge, though, is that he's dualistic in and of himself. He's composed of opposites. He's chaos and order. He's both evil and good. And so they'll view this one whole demiurge as if he consists of these two opposing forces, and the one side would be evil and order, which order to them is kind of a negative thing, and they view it as kind of a breach of nature, of the natural way of things. And then you have the good and chaotic side.
Everything the light touches is our kingdom. But a king's time as ruler rises and falls like the sun. One day, the sun will set on my time here and will rise with you as the new king.
Rafiki anoints the head of Simba at the start of the movie, and actually they're very, very clever with these things, because not only does he anoint the head, because what he anoints the head with, actually it shows a very brief second, subliminal, that he's cracking open the sun. Just take a look at it. It's in the first while of the first 10-20 minutes of The Lion King. He breaks open, gets the oil, the anointing out of that. And to cut a long story short, they believe Simba's dead. He ends up in a barren land with Timon and Pumbaa. Then there's water in the barren land. He grows up and returns as the promised one.
Simba? He's alive! He's alive! It is time!
Right, so the reason I'm covering this really is not to expose that this movie is full of occult symbolism and satanic ritualistic magic and indoctrination of young children. We already know that. That's just a given, unfortunately now. We're accepting that that is the standard. But this has got some really interesting clues as to the elitist plan and how they work with the Hegelian dialectic, which is just the same thing again. Scar is that Satan evil dragon, and Simba, or the Lion King side, is the golden. It's both the same beast. Obviously, they're all lions, they're all beasts, right? So they're both the same beast, and often you'll see Scar attributed with the moon in it. At some points he's like the capstone with the moon behind him, and then you'll get the other side, which is the sun. So it's just 69. It's infinity. It's all part of the same beast. And that is the trick. That's one of the biggest tricks in the book. If you can understand that, you understand their methodology. So this whole thing is a completely Hegelian battle, and something that really woke me up whilst watching The Lion King the other night is exactly the method they are using to deceive people, even the truth movement. And what they're doing is they want people to think that the New World Order is satanic. Now, I'm going to redefine what I just said there, because that may sound very strange to you, but I believe this is the truth. They want you and the masses to believe that this system needs to be disbanded. This system is wicked, which it is anyway, of course, but it's Hegelian. So Scar is, I'll show you in a second, is in his song Be Prepared. He is singing about this New World Order and posing as a Hitler-type figure with Nazi soldiers, and that's what they want you to think. They want you. This is why the controlled truth movement are pushing and pushing and pushing, saying this is satanic. The elite are satanic. They are evil. This system is evil. Why is that? Because they want you to accept the Son, as in the Lion King, as in Lucifer, as opposed to Satan, the false love and the false peace. They want you to root for whatever good comes along to defeat this evil system. So at this stage in the game, it's the externalization of the hierarchy. They want you to know that they are satanic and that this whole thing is satanic, because the so-called Messiah, which is the false Messiah, the false Jesus, will come along at whatever stage of the game that happens. That figure will come along and say, look, here's the answer. Peace, unity, love. But it's the same thing. There's many in the New Age movement who think the Golden Age is a good thing. This is, listen, New Age. Think about it. New Age. This is what the New World Order is. It is the New Age. You're just playing into the Luciferian lie. It's Satan versus Lucifer. Black versus white. It's like the alchemy of it. They want to turn lead into gold. The black cube, lead. It's the gold cube. It's the defeat of the dragon by the false Jesus. This is what this is. This is what's happening. They want you to think that by the onset of this New Age love, world unity, they want you to think that that is the victory over Satan. But it's not. Satan is a masquerader as light. So it's literally just the defeating of the black by the white, but it's the same beast. Christ is the only way out. The real Christ. The one who was sacrificed on the cross and died for our sins over 2,000 years ago. He is the truth. Their false Jesus, Sananda, the Maitreya, every religion across this world is going to accept Sananda, the Antichrist, the false New Age Jesus, as being a defeat of the dragon. But it isn't. In fact, love shall be the whole of the law, Crowley. Love shall be the whole of the law. But if you stand against their wickedness or their plans or their agenda, you will be seen as a terrorist or disrupting the only hope we have of true peace on earth. If you don't love their plan and their ideologies, Luciferian ideologies, then you will be seen as the one not loving, and you will be put to death. And that is not true love. There is no true love of this world. In this world is complete deception. So as I said, this has been in our faces for ever so long. There's a clip that they removed from The Lion King that was a pilot that didn't make it into the final thing. And Scar even sings of the Golden Age. Listen here.
Didn't you hear me?
No.
Take her away. I am the king. You must do as I say. Ah, so that's the game, eh? Mutiny. Ah, insurrection. Fine. Have it your own way. I don't require your respect, only your obedience. It's time you were all introduced to your ruler's executive staff. Perhaps not the kind you've been used to, but certainly game for a laugh.
We'd like to assure you no fooling. Red meat is no longer our scene. And if now and then we're seen drooling, it's only an ancestor's gene.
So prepare for a glorious future. Be prepared for the bright golden age.
So maybe they took that out because, I mean, the golden age was of the other side, of Mufasa, Simba's side. I don't know why they took it out, but it's pretty blatant. So anyway, he's singing about the same thing. It's the same beast, right? So what's he singing in Be Prepared? Remember, this is the dragon, this is the negative, this is Satan, this is the one they want you to hate, in order to bring about the false peace. So prepare for the chance of a lifetime. Be prepared for sensational news. A shining new era is tiptoeing nearer. Where do we feature? Just listen to teacher. I know it sounds sordid, but you'll be rewarded when at last I am given my dues. And injustice deliciously squared. Be prepared. I will be king. Stick with me and you'll never go hungry again. Sounds like the mark of the beast right there, right? Listen to what else he says here. It's great that we'll soon be connected with a king who'll be all-time adored. Of course, quid pro quo, you're expected to take certain duties on board. The future is littered with prizes, and though I'm the main addressee, the point that I must emphasise is you won't get a sniff without me. So, right, and this is where it gets really, really blatant, okay? Remember, this is the same beast, but they want you to think that this one's evil and the Messiah, the false Messiah, is good, but it's the same system. It's still the New World Order. It's still the golden age of Saturn. So, prepare for the coup of the century. Be prepared for the murkiest scam. Meticulous planning, tenacity spanning, decades of denial by the people is simply why I'll be king, undisputed, respected, saluted, and seen for the wonder I am. Yes, my teeth and ambitions are bared. Be prepared. They literally brag about these things all over.
Comments are still headed.
What else is on?
Yeah, let's see what else is. Coming to you now from the largest studio ever constructed, it's The Truman Show!
Yeah! Good morning!
Good morning!
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
What if? No scripts, no cue cards.
Morning, Spencer. How's it going?
What if you were watched every moment of your life?
How many cameras you got there in that town?
5,000.
I believe Truman is the first child to have been legally adopted by a corporation.
That's correct.
Brilliant.
What if everyone you knew was pretending?
Hi, honey. Look what I got at the checkout. Dishwasher safe.
That's amazing.
What if your world was make-believe?
Cue the sun. While the world he inhabits is counterfeit.
I'm not allowed to talk to you.
That's how I look. Not your type. There's nothing fake about Truman himself.
What if you didn't know it? Until now.
A lot of strange things have been happening. Stand by ring cam.
Is he looking at us?
Does he think he knows?
I think I'm mixed up in something.
Something big. We accept the reality with which we're presented.
Everybody's pretending, Truman. Get out of here. Come and find me. Truman? Truman!
Truman! Anything happen? No.
You may find yourself in another part of the world.
It's like the whole world revolves around me. Everybody seems to be in on it. I'm going away for a while.
You may tell yourself, this is not my beautiful wife. You may ask yourself, how did did I get here?
I'm not in on it, Truman, because the last thing that I would ever do is lie to you.
Fade up music. That's our hero shot. He's gone.
Okay? Yes! Want to do it again? No!
Find him. Truman, where are you going?
You can do it.
How do we stop him? Give me some light.
Is that the best you can do?
Cut transmission! I like your pen. I was wondering that myself.
Jim Carrey, The Truman Show.
I want to know how you're dealing with all these conspiracy theorists on your platform.
So the first way is by demoting low-quality content and promoting more authoritative content, and the second is by providing more transparency for users. So we're introducing boxes that provide factual information at the top of results that have shown themselves to turn up a lot of information that is counterfactual, such as searching for the Earth is flat on YouTube, where you see a lot of...
Your response is to put a box saying, nope, the Earth is not flat.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, the Chinese, I mean, they've just announced their bomb.
Yeah, we played along with it. We recorded their phony explosion. We're rather hoping the Chinese will come along, complete the pattern, you know.
In Vietnam, hundreds of people are being killed every week. Well, you can't do that with your models.
No. And you can't cure people of bad habits in 2 generations. They like to carry rifles, they like to put lines on maps, and we let them because we control the situation. There's no danger of world war. Just a simple choice for everybody. Capitalism or communism. Strawberry or vanilla. It all adds up to the same thing now we've got rid of the big bangers.
Well, how can you be sure that Johnson, Kosygin aren't working on other things? Poison gases, bacteria.
Pathetic man of your intelligence. You don't want to destroy the world, neither do I. What makes you think that presidents are different?
Well, they've made some pretty good stabs at it in the past.
It wasn't the right sort of control then. Nowadays we know better. Politicians are easy to control. The grosser mentality boys who like to be photographed getting in and out of Daimlers in Whitehall. They come right at the bottom of our organization. A few rungs up the ladder, there are the people in the top secret factories. Just those in a position to know they're making weapons that don't really work.
There must come a time when somebody wants to use one of those weapons. I mean, somebody is standing there with a finger on the button.
Well, that's the beauty of it. Nobody presses the button. We control all the crises. We build them up and we shut them down.
We? Again?
Yeah, I'm coming to that. Near the top of the hierarchy, there are the economists, top civil servants, top brass in the military. Those men who are supposed to view the nuclear tests and so on. And above them, CWNS.
Right at the top. Classified World News Service. Just who the hell are you?
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish things that aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
It's obvious, isn't it? Just a very few of the top people in communications in every major country in the world.
Oh, you mean you run all these magazines?
No, of course not. We just get them to take some of our copy every week. Television is much more important to us. It all happens so quickly.
Now, you say you can put out what pictures you like on television. Doesn't anybody try to stop you?
No, nobody wants to. 99.386% of the population wouldn't believe this conversation. And the rest are working for us. And they're the top minds, the really responsible people. They know they're guaranteeing the lives of their grandchildren the only foolproof way.
Scaring the hell out of their grandchildren. Well, I won't buy it.
You must admit there has to be some kind of control in this world of ours. Look at this. And remember that 1/4 of the world is starving. There are the full bellies and the empty bellies. Some of the empty bellies carry rifles. Well, we full bellies are getting a bit flabby. We're not very good with rifles anymore, so we've devised 2 ways to keep the empty bellies under control. One of them is this fictitious hydrogen bomb we've talked about. The other one is money. Enough money to fill some of the empty bellies and put a hopeful smile on the faces of the others. A great wall of money all around Britain. And it's no secret that the British economy is in trouble at the moment. So we have to put that right too, to stay alive. We have to control the people in this country. Scare an ostrich, buries its head in the sand. You scare a hedgehog, it rolls itself up into a ball. When a woman's frightened, she goes out and buys herself a hat.
You mean you scare us so that we'll buy more, so that money moves quicker, production moves up?
We don't say scare when we talk about human beings. We say threaten them emotionally. And there are all sorts of ways of doing, not just the big ones like the hydrogen bomb. Overcrowd them a little with bad planning. Sell them too many motor cars. Anything to keep them a little bit removed from reality. Nowadays, people don't work for money. They work for the idea of money. They don't even love for love. They love for the idea of love. They only hate for the idea of hate. It took us 5 years to find a non-addictive drug. One we could pay off against the hard drugs. LSD.
You marketed that?
Oh, yes, of course. And for a very good reason. Some of these protest movements are getting a little bit too close to the mark. LSD gave them nice little hallucinations. Made them talk like 3-year-olds. Throw flowers at policemen. Shall we talk terms?
You're not still going to ask me to work for you?
I'm afraid I've had to put all this rather bluntly. You see, there wasn't really very much time. It must be rather a shock. Most people realize that the world is controlled from about 6 big cities. But it must be rather shocking to learn that a sixth of the world is controlled from this building.
You mean you?
Oh, no. I only rate an office on the 7th floor. There are 2 other offices above this one. And a giant computer system. I ought to tell you, we pay a great deal of money. We can afford to. We save such a lot on things like the national defense budget, so on. We would start you off at £250,000 a year.
No.
Rising to £1 million when you make the Ministry of Morality, which I know you will.
Will you let me out of here?
One little point. I should have told you about these surgical transmitters. There's enough of this stuff inside you at this moment to kill 6 people. There's a button we can press. I'm sorry about the dramatics. Our boys call these things the oral contraceptive. Keeps them from talking too much.
So there must be one of those transmitters inside you. Who presses the button? Extra hands. All this stuff about the computer being extra hands for the men who know how to control it. That machine controls you.
The first thing about 5G is it's an opportunity for transformation.
These technologies will form the world of the future. We cannot afford to be written out of that future.
You have to keep in mind that more or less everything will change.
We as an industry classify 5G as better speeds, lower latency, and the ability to connect with a very large number of devices that are suited for very high-end applications.
Some of the applications that are likely to come from 5G, autonomous driving, developments in the healthcare area, smart cities, manufacturing, energy.
The 4G technology is connecting people. The 5G technology will be connecting objects.
When we talk about global connectivity, the relevant measure would be the number of connected devices. If there's roughly 20 billion connected devices today, it's projected globally there will be 50 billion connected devices by the year 2030 alone.
In order to be able to handle all of this traffic, you require a network that is much more flexible, and that's what 5G will bring.
It will be machines talking to machines, IoT or Internet of Things.
In manufacturing, for example, you can monitor much better all of the machinery that is part of the manufacturing process as well as the logistics.
You can start to predict and anticipate where the defects will happen. And as a result, you can improve the efficiency that can translate into billions of dollars of savings for the industry.
Just imagine a new scenario where everything is connected. Do we need traffic lights? We don't need traffic lights. You just speak and say, I'm going home. The network knows where your home is. The network knows where all the cars and the traffic is.
The result of that ends up being reduced energy consumption, reduced carbon footprint.
For many years, environmental policy relied on educated guesses and hunches. There wasn't really a very strong evidence base. And so this is where I think technology can help us far outpace what we've been doing in the past.
What 5G will open up is this instrumentation and transportation of data that could really take healthcare to a completely new level. Right now, if someone's having a heart attack, there's no way of sensing that. 5G and beyond will allow the early detection well before you even feel the symptoms.
5G is going to underpin the digital economy in many countries. And that's why it's really important that we get these enabling conditions right.
But I think we have a behavioural issue that we need to address. We spend a lot of time engaged with our devices to the extent that we're looking at how do we actually make people look up when they cross the road. There's one thing about being a smart city. The other challenge is, do you use this technology well? Does it make us happier people? Do we use the city in a better way?
We need to focus on not just the near-term economic benefit for the corporate world, but the societal benefit that 5G will bring.
If you put a VR lab in a school, the students can explore the pyramids of Egypt or even the solar system. But on the continent, there are challenges with even basic internet access today.
A lot of infrastructure in countries is built by governments in order to attract corporate investment. So governments need to decide what are the infrastructure elements they should be encouraging investment in.
5G gives us the potential to leapfrog into the next generation of connectivity. And I really hope policymakers, tech entrepreneurs, mobile operators, civil society activists pay real attention to making sure that this era of human history really becomes the generation where we close that gap between the rich and poor parts of the world.
Centuries ago, mankind discovered a way to transfer consciousness into a new body, making death a mere inconvenience. Since then, we've been providing an unparalleled pedigree of human sleeves to only the most discerning clientele. Psychosec. Live forever in the body you deserve.
I'm going to start off with the Freemason tracing board. Most of you have heard this before, but I'm going to really go in depth on it first because you need to see what the elites believe from the Freemason tracing board, and it'll lay out the rest of this video that we're going to go into on Beyonce's Haunted. The first one that I introduced to this video in the intro was from an excerpt of her I Am World Tour video where she is a actually transhuman beast. That's what that symbolism is, and for you guys who have followed me, you saw that in the Carter commercial where the leopard, the beast inside, which is the third beast in scripture that comes before the fourth beast, which is the leopard. So we're going to begin with a clip from a movie, National Treasure. It is going to tell you part of the truth, but it's also going to mix it with a lie. The truth is that the elites follow Solomon for a reason. And when I say the elites, I mean Freemasons, Illuminati, New World Order, secret societies. They follow Solomon for a reason. It wasn't after his gold or anything like that. That's why it's never been unearthed. People look and they say they can't find the Temple of Solomon, and if he was the richest man, why didn't they find his treasure? And I'll tell you why, because that's part of the lie. They want you to believe that man, Templars, the Crusades, were looking for Solomon's treasures and all of this stuff, physical stuff. But the secret and the truth is Solomon had information. He had information how to bind up the demon spirits and angels and build other temples to other gods. So you have to look at that in a deeper meaning is other temples. If we are the temple of God. So, but most importantly, he learned how to control them with this information. How did he do that? It was with sound, keys. So when you say, I hold the key to something, you may be thinking of a physical key that you put in the door, but a key is also a tone, is a musical note, a key on a piano. That's why there's 88 keys on a piano. It's no accident, and it's also black and white. So there's deeper stuff to frequency, tones of more than what we've been taught, and knowledge is power. And of course, the elite know this. That's why the Illuminati use the music industry is sound. So here's the clip from National Treasure, part of the propaganda shown to you to show you part of the truth and part of the lie.
Okay, here we go. It was 1832. Charles Carroll was the last surviving signer of the Declaration of Independence. He was also a member of a secret society known as the Masons. Charles Carroll had a secret.
What was the secret?
A treasure. A treasure beyond all imagining. A treasure that had been fought over for centuries by tyrants, pharaohs, emperors, warlords, and suddenly it vanished. It didn't reappear for more than 1,000 years, when knights from the First Crusade discovered secret vaults beneath the Temple of Solomon. You see, the knights who found the vaults believed that the treasure was too great for any one man, not even a king. They brought the treasure back to Europe and took the name, the Knights Templar. Over the next century, they smuggled it out of Europe. They formed a new brotherhood called the Freemasons in honor of the builders of the Great Temple. War followed. By the time of the American Revolution, the treasure had been hidden again. By then, the Masons included George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Paul Revere.
So there you see the propaganda that is being pushed by the movies of many people over thousands of years looking for Solomon's gold and treasures or whatever. So what you're looking at is the Freemasonic tracing board that is in every Masonic temple in the United States and abroad, internationally. And as you can see, I've kind of outlined some of this, but I'm going to go over it quickly for you guys. I mean, I know some of the followers and my subs have seen this over the years, but for you that are seeing this for the first time, you need to see it because it's going to set the precedence for the rest of the video for Beyonce, some of her symbolism and some other videos. First off, you will notice up at the top it is facing the east. North is to the left, south is to the right. There's a reason it is facing the east. This is where man was thrown out of the garden. He was thrown out of the garden to the east. And a fellow Mason will ask you a question. He will find out if you were a fellow Mason. He's going to ask you a question. Are you a traveling man? And if you answer, no, I didn't have a vacation this year, he's going to know that you are not a fellow Mason. But if you answer him that, yes, I'm a traveling man, I've been traveling in the east, looking for answers, looking for light, whatever, he will know you are a fellow Mason. So that's why it's facing the east. And all the temples, the floor, the three pillars are always facing the east. God is from the north. The Creator is from the north. So that's, first off, you need to understand that why there's east up at the top of the picture. You've got three pillars. One is SWB, B is for beauty, W is for wisdom or intelligence, brains, whatever. S is for strength. So those together, the elite believe that through this they can become their own gods. And why do they believe that? This is the key to understanding a lot of the symbolism and a lot of the things the elite do. Is this right here. They believe the lie that Adam and Eve were held captive in the garden by the Creator, and it was not until Lucifer, the serpent, showed up on the scene, shared information with Adam and Eve that unlocked knowledge. And I'm just saying what they believe and what they are taught in ancient mystery schools. This is what they believe. So through man's intellect one day and wisdom, they will become their own gods and be free of this evil creator that's what they believe. So this is where technology comes in, the transhumanism, which is coming already here, those kind of things. So also what you're looking at too is the ladder that's going up and down, and notice it's the key that's hanging off is the key of Solomon. And there's also in the Bible the key of David, which is the true and the correct way to get into the kingdom of God. David was a man after God's own heart. He knew where God dwelt. God dwells somewhere that's not made by hands, man. That's why he doesn't dwell in a physical building. And David knew that. And so, and that's part of the illusion that's been going on for eons here is on the outside you're looking at, too many people are looking at the physical and not the spiritual end, are looking at the meanings of a temple and kingdoms and keys. It's wordplay. And so you have to decipher some of this. So the wrong way is the key of Solomon. And this is what they follow. And that's why there is a compass laying there, a square. You've got the architectural stuff, the stone. Jesus Christ is the true cornerstone. That's why Acts 4:11 is talking about the builders who rejected the true cornerstone. They're rejecting the way Jesus Christ showed us the way, is you come as a man into this world and you die as a man on the cross. And that's what's important about it, is they thought they were killing him and winning, but they weren't. He was doing what he was supposed to be doing. He was showing you how to get out of this. This is how to do it. The truth, the way, and the life. You come as a man, die as a man. So the elite follow key of Solomon. The followers of Christ will follow the key of David. And you have to figure out what that is. And I'm just sharing that's what it is. See, a lot of people are sitting here waiting on, the Christians and certain religions are waiting on the final temple of Solomon to be built. And they're collecting artwork and draperies, and we're building the Solomon's temple over there. And that's not what's going on. What I'm sharing is the key of the true temple of Solomon the elite are trying to build. And the true Solomon's temple is going to be a transhuman beast temple built on this knowledge of good and evil. That's why there's a foundation floor there of dark and light, of good and evil knowledge. Something is built on as a foundation. So that's what all of this symbolism is talking about. Third pillar, temple symbolism of what's going on. Ascending, which is also the ladder, Jacob's ladder, what he saw going up and down. DNA ladder, looks like a ladder. This wisdom that they think they have found to become their own gods. So I just wanted to go in depth a little bit on that, and we'll move on with Beyonce. She did a video called Ghost and then also Haunted. Released them, I think, the same day, just about. And notice what a ghost is. A ghost is generally described as a solitary essence that haunt particular locations, objects, or people they were associated with in life. So, a ghost that's why it says a ghost in a haunted mansion, or a ghost in a temple. It's the same thing, just wordplay. Or notice there's always the opposite. There's the Holy Ghost in the temple of God, which is the right way, and then there's a bad ghost, which is evil, haunting another temple. As you can see also that they're trapped in like a fine linen veil type thing, and that it's no accident. In 2 Corinthians 3:16, it says, "Nevertheless, when it shall turn to the Lord, thy veil shall be taken away." And then the next verse tells you, "Now the Lord is thy spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty," or freedom. And then again, the next verse after that in 3:18, it's telling you, "But we all, with open face beholding as in a glass the glory of the Lord, are changed into the same image from glory to glory, even as by the Spirit of the Lord." And what that's saying is that is the true image of the key of David. Dies a man, comes a man, dies a man, to enter the kingdom of God. You have to follow that pattern like Christ showed you to do. Any other pattern, you are messing with creation. And that's what this video Ghost is telling you. They're trapped behind the veil. A veil sometimes is for the head or the face, but it's also for a place of significance, or to cover something important like your body, your temple, that kind of thing. So they're trapped here. Ghost, a ghost in the machine, a ghost in a transhuman vessel, a soul trapped. That's why earlier in the video I put some verses out there that sometimes are hard to understand if you don't know the prophecies and not understanding what transhumanism is, the downloading of the mind, the cloning. All it is monkeying or messing around with the Creator's plan. That is it. That's all it is. And when you start messing with it, that's when we're killing ourselves. So let's move on to Haunted now, which I'll do a little more detail on, and you will be amazed the stuff that is in I'll just tell you right now why it took so long to make this video. There's so much stuff to share within a clip that is put in these videos. It's information overload, even for me. So I'm going to do the best I can for you guys. So we'll move on to Haunted. As we move through this clip or this video, the countdown begins. Then it opens with the white room. The significance of the white room has to do with where we all started in the beginning. Adam and Eve, pure, white, untainted, free from sin. All this symbolism of that is pretty simple. But as we move through, the next scene's going to come up on a bunch of mannequins, which is also a test family for nuclear blast and reactors. They did that back in the 60s. This was the nuclear test family. And why is that significant? And again, what has that got to do with anything in Beyonce's Haunted? Exactly what I was talking about. There's so much symbolism and stuff they're showing you. They're showing you this nuclear family because that's the basis behind alchemy. Nuclear reactions, the reactivity to uranium, which is transmuted into plutonium, which is the process for that. That is also what was considered the elixir of life behind the mythical legend of the Philosopher's Stone, which nowadays is symbolism of the cube. And a lot of people are, I do videos on Saturn and the cube. But really the cube is all it is. This is all it is in the Holy of Holies, behind the veil, there was a perfect cube space, a 20 by 20 by 20 cubic cube, perfect cube, and I'll give you the scripture for it up in the box. And that's all it is the adversary is trying to copy the Creator. Notice the illusion here of the Holy of Holies in the tabernacle or the temple of God, a physical temple back then. What has changed now and what we're talking about is the adversary wants to set himself up in the new temple of God, and you have to understand what the new temple is. It's us. It's the human body. This, where God dwells, not in a building. So that's why they're showing you the nuclear test family. That's why also Beyonce performed at the Super Bowl and performed with Destiny's Child. Guess what we're going with this? Destiny's Child, what I'm talking of. And, what song did they perform? Nuclear. There's a reason why they did that. They're telling you. It's just a message you have to connect and figure out that it's right in front of our faces. So moving on through this video, you're going to see TVs and static and the airwaves being interfered with. That is exactly what's going on. Is you have the Creator that has his frequencies, whatever you want to say. He spoke over the water, spoke things into existence. There's good frequencies, then there's bad frequencies. That's why Satan is known as the prince of the air, airwaves, wireless, whatever you want to say. That's why the last kingdom in prophecy that Christ has to come by and break up is part of it is iron, part of it is clay. It is exactly what I've been telling you for years and years and years. The iron has to do with technology, but it also has to do with created iron. Anything made, there's iron that are in the earth that is natural, but then anything man-made, metal or iron, we're not supposed to be around. That's why they're in the GMO foods. There's iron. Prescription drugs, there's metal in your prescription drugs. There's metal in your vaccine. Remember they were putting metal mercury in your teeth that they found was giving everybody cancers. You start putting this stuff together, then you slowly start putting it to see what the battle is for the temple of God. So notice, moving forward in the video now, you're going to see Beyonce. She is pulling up to the mansion. She's got luggage. Could she be traveling somewhere? Remember what I told you, a traveling man or traveling. So a lot of people out there are saying, well, that's a man. Beyonce's a woman. Well, you ever saw the Eastern Star logo? That's for women. And guess what? It is in the East. Remember what I told you about the East? The Eastern Star. I'll give you the logo here shortly. But anyway, Beyonce pulls up. She's obviously been traveling. And she's pulling up the Haunted Mansion. And she's stepping out of the car. And notice what she has on. She has a jacket that is black and white and spots. Does that look familiar to anybody? 101 Dalmatian, Cruella de Vil, which hidden in that name is Cruel Devil. And I'll share that with you here. Now, for you who have not seen any of my videos, and this is the first time you're seeing my video, I did a series on the 101. So you'll have to watch that to see what the significance is of the 101. The people who are up at the top, the Matrix 101 room, it goes on and on. So it's a good series. I've had out for a while. Now notice when she walks in here, she walks in between the two pillars. Now what did I tell you where the elite want to go is that third pillar. They want to ascend to be like gods. So she's between the two pillars. There is the stairs ascending up, symbolism. The luggage there, that she is a traveling man from the east looking for the light. That's what that signifies. Also, she's got BB on her luggage, which is also 2 and 2. B being the second letter of the alphabet, English alphabet 22, which is also, you'll have to watch another video of mine, what the elite want to accomplish with things that I'm talking about here is the programmable matter, the extra 22 autosomes mixed with the triple helix nanotechnology into a transhuman, the 22 extra autosomes into a transhuman vessel. Also, the symbolism of the pillars are all based on the Twin Towers and the gates of the Temple of Solomon. You'll notice, and that's where we're not supposed to go, is that gateway, that doorway, forbidden doorway, the key of David that is spoken of in the Bible of what he shuts no one can open and what he opens no one can shut. That's what we're not supposed to go down this road. And people went down this road a long time ago. And this is why people get confused in the days of Noah. You have to really understand what was going on in the days of Noah and why he wiped out, humanity except for Noah and his pure generations. Something was going on, the tampering of creation. Some evil men were trying to become their own gods with this technology, reaching out of the knowledge of good and evil as you look at it. So there's nothing new under the sun. It's just happening again, repackaged for our time.
Most people who go about their everyday life are oblivious to CCTV cameras.
You're getting a picture like that of someone that you can't, the person's not going to be able to question what's going on.
Even mobile CCTV now on police cars. And what that's called is the novelty effect wears off. So if something is new, I look up and I think, oh, it's new, it's invaded my space. Just like when telegraphs were introduced and people saw terrestrial lines that carried voice calls. Wow, what are these things, We see windmills today and we think, oh, wow, a windmill. Or we see other infrastructure and we think, oh, aren't those base stations at the top of the building looking ugly? So we do notice these things initially, but we become oblivious to them over time. I don't notice base stations anymore, and I used to work very closely with where base stations went. For mobile phones. The novelty effect wears off, and with that wearing off, we become immune and we forget to question what is going on.
There's these transhumanists who believe that someday humans will be incorporated into the machine and machines and humans will sort of be one. And really what I have to say to them, apart from the fact that they're completely crazy, is that they're way too late and it's already happened. We're already embedded in these machines and we are enthralled to these machines. Think about it. Do you touch plastic or human flesh more often? Or think about it. How many machines do you have daily relationships with? And on the other hand, how many wild animals do you have daily relationships with? And if you have daily relationships with your machines, you can come to believe that those machines are more important than the real world.
This is what matters. The experience of a product. Will it make life better?
You see that?
Life. All of this on a phone.
More people connect face-to-face on the
All
iPhone.
my students have the brand new Surface.
The more that technology can fit into our lives.
Until every idea we touch
You should get a GS4.
enhances each life it touches.
If you only hear things that come from humans or their creations, you can come to believe that humans and their creations are the only ones who exist. And this leads to the same thing that happens to other people who are living in echo chambers, which is if you're in an echo chamber, if you're under sensory deprivation conditions, you start to hallucinate. most of our ideologies are hallucinations.
Increasingly, the techno-haves are very, very distinct from the techno-have-nots, where some people are on $1 a day with no access to drinking water, and there's other people with Game Boy thumbs and Prozac and Botox and so on. And it struck me that this world, leaving aside humanitarian issues, was economically and ecologically not viable. You can't have a divide like that.
The mythology of technological change really is that it's beyond our control, that technology is like one of the great forces of the universe, that it will progress inevitably, and that all we can do is jump on or jump out the way, that there is no stopping technology. And that is a myth which is propagated to make us feel powerless, that we have any say in the way that technology is used. Because technology is an expression of the elites of the society that create it. And spreading this myth that there's nothing we can do about it, then in fact, once we see that for the myth that it is, then we are more able to say,
resistance is not futile.
This culture will consume the world in order to power these machines. And, it doesn't require some fiendishly clever conspiracy on the part of machines to do this. What it requires is, I love this line, unquestioned assumptions or unquestioned beliefs are the real authorities of any culture. And all it takes is an unwillingness to question the beliefs on which the system is based. And there's a great line also by Upton Sinclair. It's hard to make a man understand something when his job depends on him not understanding it. And I would say it's hard to make a person understand something when their entitlement depends on them not understanding it. And when their addiction depends on them not understanding it. I think that it's all tied to addiction too. The word addiction actually comes from the same root as to enslave, because originally a judge would issue an edict causing someone to become a slave, and so they were addicted. It's pretty clear, when we talk about people who are heroin addicts or something, it's pretty clear that they are enslaved to the addiction. And it's a little bit less easy to see in ourselves as we spend most of the day staring at a screen. And it's also a bit more difficult to see when we talk about some group of people being addicted to power over others, which is what this culture is really based on.
There is no way that technology is neutral. Technology reflects the elites, the passions, the capacities of the people that create and then continue to use it. Once you start looking at the technology plus the culture, those things together mean that the technology is constructed in a certain way, and it's understood in a certain way, and it's used in a certain way. And once you start putting all those things together, then it has a purpose for the people that are talking about it, which is far from neutral. Technology is always harnessed to a particular end. Now, sometimes that can be positive or negative, but it's not as simplistic as saying, oh, it's up to people how they use it, because people can only use it within the constraints of how it's designed, the knowledge that they have, and the society that they've been socialized in. And those three things together mean that technology has an actual cultural value which is far from neutral. Until we start asking those questions, what are the social costs and benefits, and who is excluded, and what is the environmental cost of all this? I mean, there are in terms of the huge amount of toxic landfill from discarded mobiles, for example. Yes, and until we start looking at those other pictures in terms of we look at the way that technology works as a network of connection, but instead see it as part of as part of a living world, because technology is not part of that living world. It has an impact upon that living world. Until we see those bigger questions and technology in the broader scheme of things rather than just as its own story, I think we're only scratching the surface of the many ways in which we are using it, and we're using it to change ourselves and our futures.
And if you put your hope in the world, in the plus or minus of this world, you are still trapped within the flesh of this world. Everything that we do, if it wasn't for the Father who loves us and came to this reality, this fallen reality, in the man of Jesus Christ, his Son, his only begotten Son, we would have no hope. This is what it would be. It would just be the battle between two pillars. It's a completely divided kingdom.
But another thing related to the whole pillar symbolism is 9/11, and specifically the Twin Towers. I believe that to the Illuminati, or whatever we're calling them, the Twin Towers were symbolic of the two pillars of Freemasonry, the synthesis of the two towers, just like the two pillars. And what I mean is the two World Trade Center towers were intentionally destroyed to make way for the one World Trade Center. And yes, that's literally what it's called. Not anything ominous about that. But the One World Trade Center represents what's often called the third pillar, that is, the amalgamation of the first two pillars. And so, again, it's the same idea as the arch being placed on top of the two pillars. It's just another way of representing the same thing. Let me prove my point further, though, about this. Notice in this picture what seems to be an intentional connection made between the layout of the three towers and the layout of the three pyramids in Egypt. The reason I point that out is because the One World Trade Center is actually an elongated square antiprism, which you're probably wondering what on earth that means. And so a square antiprism consists of two pyramids that have been unfurled at their highest point and then interlocked one to another, as you can see in this clip. And so what I'm saying is the two pyramids that make up the new tower likely represent the Twin Towers. And so that One World Trade Center is a perfect representation of the two World Trade Center towers being synthesized into a single whole. Also, if that weren't enough, I mean, just think back to what I was saying about the name, the One World Trade Center. This whole ritual behind 9/11 and the tower is bigger than just buildings. It's a symbolic statement. The statement being made here is about the great work on a worldwide scale. And so that's why they want this worldwide amalgamation, not just the combination of two buildings. They don't care about that. This is just a ritual to show their dedication to this great work, because they think if they achieve this, they'll destroy the construct along with the demiurge, and then they'll be set free to ascend. And obviously, given the massive death toll incurred on 9/11, they're willing to do just about anything to achieve that goal. And so the statement they're making there is, look, if we're going to kill all these people just to put these two buildings together as some stupid symbol, how much more do you think we're willing to do to finish the actual great work? Because part of the great work is not synthesizing two buildings. That's nothing but a ritual. And so that means they're actually hard at work trying to bring about this great work. And so just think about some things that are occurring around you right now on a daily basis. Can you think of any ways that they're working to accomplish this goal in the world today? To show you one, let me just backtrack a tad. Before I mentioned that occasionally the two pillars are portrayed as red and blue, and often they use these types of blue and red as opposing colors for their dualistic symbolism, as we saw in Tron Legacy. But also, remember back to the Hegelian dialectic I showed. The thesis I represented with blue on white, and the antithesis I represented with red on black. But the synthesis I represented with purple on gray. I did this because the combination of black and white is gray, and the combination of blue with red is purple. So purple is often used by the Illuminati to represent synthesis, or the third pillar. So the reason I say all this is because Prince died, and Prince was quite famous for his song Purple Rain. So you had purple light shows and all kinds of purple themes everywhere, supposedly in his honor. However, Prince at one point in his career seemed to allude to his being made up of two different genders, speaking about the Gemini and whatnot.
But during our conversation, the artist shared a very personal discovery he's recently made about himself. This is very interesting.
Recent analysis has proved that there's probably two people inside of me, just like a Gemini, and we haven't determined what sex that other person is yet.
What I'm getting from you is that you were very much in touch with both sides of yourself, your masculine and feminine side.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And always have been.
And he even admitted at one point that the symbol he used throughout his career was a combination of the symbols for male and female.
So how did it come about? The symbol came to you, and the symbol is like a combination of female and male?
Yes.
And of course, he was well known for being rather feminine in both his dress and mannerisms. But what I'm saying is, Prince was a symbol to the elite of the synthesis of male and female, and his death, while tragic, it seems to be all too convenient for them and their schemes, since transgenderism is the in thing now. I mean, ask yourself, is this acceptance, and more than that, celebration of such a deplorable lifestyle as transgenderism even close to normal? Or does it seem forced, maybe guided by some kind of invisible hand? Like, I don't know, maybe the media, movies, celebrities, music, huge corporations, and on and on and on. And the culture has collapsed on so many similar issues that I believe are all a part of this hidden agenda. The whole LGBT movement, for instance, is clearly a psyop, which is short for psychological operation. But it's obviously been foisted on the public, and they've been preconditioned by all those sources that I mentioned, like media and movies, to accept it. But really, the goal of the elite with this particular psyop, LGBT, is to swap gender roles back and forth over and over until there's fluidity between the two in people's minds, so that there will no longer be any distinction between the two genders. And then the two categories will become obsolete, essentially synthesizing the two together. I mean, you can see this in the language that the LGBT movement itself uses. They have this term called gender fluid, which refers to a person who doesn't identify with any single fixed gender. So what's beginning to happen now is, because our society is beginning to see gender as a social construct, the gender binary, the dual male and female aspects, are no longer thought to be necessary. And so you have the synthesis of male and female occurring right before your eyes in the LGBT community itself. And I mean, besides the whole transgender aspect of it, this is also, of course, assisted by the bisexual and lesbian and gay sexual preferences, which also find their place in the acronym LGBT, because they also assist in the destruction of gender distinction, as one might guess would happen when a person believes a male and female aren't gender binaries meant only for one another. But also on the same topic, I'd like to take a second and point out just how absolutely devoted the elite are to this insane plot. They seriously believe this stuff, because the makers behind those highly Gnostic Matrix movies that we already discussed, who were the Wachowski brothers, are now the Wachowski sisters. They both became transgender for the sake of this Gnostic Luciferian philosophy of theirs. Unbelievable. I mean, these two are seriously devoted to finishing the great work at any cost. But another obvious part of the agenda is the current race wars that are raging in the United States at the moment, that, just like the LGBT movement, will result in a similar abandoning of reality, which, what I mean is, race will end up rejected altogether as just another social construct, which I've already seen this ideal promulgated firsthand.
I am not black. I mean, that's what the world calls me, but it's not me. Along with whatever you call yourself, it's just a label. See, from birth, the world force feeds us these labels. Race was invented in the 15th century to divide people from each other, and it has worked perfectly. Who would you be if the world never gave you a label? Would you be white, black, Mexican, Asian, Native American, Middle Eastern, Indian? No. We would be one. We would be together. No longer living in the era of calling human beings black people or white people.
Evolution. Evolution essentially teaches that men are just highly evolved animals, which in effect erases the boundaries between the two. And what better way to get society to accept the merger of human and animal, that is, chimeras, than to tell them they're already animals? And I mean, we already have examples where humans are mutilating themselves to appear more animal-like. I mean, it's similar to the transgender thing, it's just instead of becoming a different gender, they're becoming animals. And so the thing that I would ask about this is that, how do you go about condemning bestiality and scientific endeavors to make human-animal crossbreeds when man is actually nothing but an animal in the first place? Do you see how they've rigged the system to collapse here? I mean, it seems that they intentionally pushed this view of evolution to begin with so that one day they can pull the rug out from under the people protesting such disgusting things as that. But notice that chimera crossbreeds between man and animal have been the fixation of the occult since the time of the Egyptians, and really it lives on today in the form of like werewolf movies movies and TV shows and vampire dramas and all that stuff. And I realize this psyop seems more unreasonable right now because it's so far out, but mark my words, man, you're gonna start seeing this stuff more and more. And just keep in mind that if you had told somebody in the 90s that gay marriage would be legal in such a short amount of time, they probably would have had the same reaction. But the evolution lie also helps the elite accomplish another key goal in synthesis. That is the synthesis of good and evil, or the blurring of the line between what's good and bad. Because if evolution is true and all we are is highly evolved pond scum, why not murder or lie or rape or a myriad of other things that past societies have deemed immoral? There's no real reason, besides fear of punishment by the government, so that the elite can keep people believing they're animals. They think they can make them act like it too. But it's the same kind of process we saw with the LGBT and the race issue. They're trying to blur the lines between good and evil by making good out to be evil and evil out to be good. Then they change those standards so many times that it makes the two opposites fluid and easily interchangeable, essentially erasing any original distinction made between the two until society deems objective morality yet another social construct. But this stuff is exactly what ordo ab chao, or order out of chaos, means to these elite class secret societies. They bring about unity or synthesis through causing a state of chaos, as we've seen implemented with all these different psyops. But some of the more obvious psyops that are clearly being pushed towards by the elite is that of the one world order I spoke of before, which is sometimes referred to as the New World Order, where there's a one world government, a one world currency, a one world language, a one world leader, and even a one world religion. In other words, they want complete and utter unification of all things. It's always about taking the many and making them into a unified whole. But the last psyop I would point out is one that is meant to merge all the previous ones I've mentioned, and it's like the crowning jewel of the great work, falling just short in the pecking order of the synthesis of the demiurge. And I'm of course talking about transhumanism. And transhumanism can be seen as the merger of man and machine, of biology and technology, even life and death, though organic and inorganic is probably a more accurate way of putting it. The reason, though, that this is the one psyop to rule them all is because it ends the debate on the others. It's the capstone, in a sense. Because once it gets fully implemented and humans start becoming fully machine, there can no longer be any distinction between sexual orientation, gender, race, nationality, not even species will be a valid distinction any longer. And morals? Forget about it. They'll evaporate overnight. Not to mention the simultaneous abandoning of nearly all religion, because who needs to worry about an afterlife when you can't die? I mean, the only religious belief that won't be completely erased by transhumanism will be pantheistic monism, that teaches that all is one and that all is God. I mean, it's the very definition of the synthesis of macrocosm and microcosm, and really any and all opposites, because in pantheistic monism, all things in existence are seen as being one united whole. But this transhumanism agenda will be pushed on us by the appeal to all these other disunities that we've discussed, like race and gender and all these types of things. And people will eat it up because it will be promoted as the means to achieve world peace and to end hunger and to stop disease. I mean, heck, it'll even be promoted as the best social network out there. I mean, there's literally no end to the potential propaganda behind this one. But in the end, it's just a furthering of the religious doctrine about the synthesis. And so, essentially, this massive plot that I've drawn out here is what Nicholson 1968 has coined the one game, meaning this is the true and final agenda behind all their plotting, the real end goal they're striving after, and they'll stop at nothing to achieve. Everything else is just pawns they're moving to get to this final step, and all of it is done to achieve the great work, the eventual synthesis of all things, ending with the demiurge himself.
They will not frame their doings to turn unto their God, for the spirit of whoredoms is in the midst of them, and they have not known the Lord. For the spirit of whoredoms is in the midst of them, My people ask counsel at their stocks, and their staff declareth unto them. For the spirit of whoredoms hath caused them to err, and they have gone a-whoring from under their God. And unto the angel of the church in Thyatira write, These things saith the Son of God, who hath his eyes like unto a flame of fire, and his feet are like fine brass. I know thy works, and charity, and service, and faith, and thy patience, and thy works. Notwithstanding, I have a few things against thee, because thou sufferest that woman Jezebel, which calleth herself a prophetess, to teach and to seduce my servants to commit fornication, and to eat things sacrificed unto idols. And I gave her space to repent of her fornication, and she repented not. Behold, I will cast her into a bed, and them that commit adultery with her into great tribulation, except they repent of their deeds. And I will kill her children with death. And all the churches shall know that I am he which searcheth the reins and hearts, and I will give unto every one of you according to your works. But unto you I say, and unto the rest in Thyatira, as many as have not this doctrine, and which have not known the depths of Satan, because thou sufferest that woman Jezebel, there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the Spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, and the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written: Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works. In the cup which she hath filled, fill to her double. How much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord God who judgeth her. Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for God hath avenged you on her. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone, and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. For by thy sorceries were all nations deceived, and in her was found the blood of prophets, and of saints, and of all that were slain upon the earth. And after these things, I heard a great voice of much people in heaven saying, Hallelujah! Salvation and glory and honor and power unto the Lord our God. For true and righteous are his judgments. For he hath judged the great whore, which did corrupt the earth with her fornication, and hath avenged the blood of his servants at her hand. And again they said, Hallelujah! And her smoke rose up forever and ever.
To order, brethren, to receive the most worshipful, the Grand Master.
Self-evident, Brother Franklin, all men are created equal.
Indeed, Brother Washington. All Freemasons meet as equals, and we have an opportunity to create a nation in the very essence of Masonic morality. It would be wonderfully symbolic, don't you think?
You'll be wanting to put the all-seeing eye on our banknotes next.
You think I'm taking it a bit far?
Please don't ask me questions like that, Brother Franklin. You know I cannot tell a lie.
Oh, come on, Brother Washington. Everybody lies occasionally, surely. Especially politicians.
Not me. Not even so much as an alternative fact.
We must all be aware of fake news.
The people must be free to think what they like as well. We can have no thought police in our new society. The foundation stone of our new nation built on all those principles that we hold dear.
The plans for our new capital city already have a very Masonic feel to them, yeah.
Candidate for initiation into the order, I'm giving him a little introduction into some of our mysteries. These two gentlemen are founding an entire nation built on our principles.
We have great promises for our new nation. You know, I wonder if other presidents after me will also be Freemasons.
Many will be. And Freemasonry will become embedded in the American culture. And the eye will appear on the banknotes.
Oh, God.
These principles will be honored with a gift from your French brethren. A gift that will be a welcoming beacon to the poor and oppressed.
This is the statue we are giving you.
It's a bit small, isn't it?
Oh, this is a maquette. The real thing is bigger. Much, much bigger.
America will produce a great many great Americans from many different walks of life and many different fields, and many will be Masons. Sportsmen, actors, writers, soldiers, filmmakers, businessmen, inventors, astronauts.
What on earth is an astronaut?
No, they're not.
I don't follow.
Well, they're not on Earth, they're in space. In fact, Brother Buzz Aldrin was the second man to walk upon the surface of the moon.
That's the best thing I've heard this evening.
What, that a Mason walked on the moon?
Man on the moon. Amazing. But don't forget the musicians. Do not forget the musicians.
Authoritarian and totalitarian regimes continue to suppress Freemasonry, afraid of its strong heritage of liberty and equality.
It symbolizes the inevitability of your end.
The British Army had travelling lodges that moved with regiments. Freemasons have served their countries and communities with distinction.
Freemasons met across the Union and Confederate divide to celebrate their common rituals.
And today, Freemasonry remains an active part of military life in many countries.
Freemasonry has burned as a blazing fire through the last 3 centuries. The driving force behind the Royal Society was initiated into Freemasonry.
Prince Edward, Duke of Kent, father of Queen Victoria, and Prince Augustus, Duke of Sussex. The 2 princes brought their feuding Grand Lodges together and reconciled to be the United Grand Lodge of England.
Kings George IV, William IV, Edward VII, Edward VIII, and George VI were all Freemasons, as were 18 dukes and princes, including the Duke of Edinburgh.
This year, His Royal Highness Prince Edward, the Duke of Kent, celebrates his 50th year as Grand Master of the United Grand Lodge of England.
His Royal Highness was proposed into Freemasonry by the then Grand Master, the Earl of Scarborough.
He was initiated into Royal Alpha Lodge number 16, an advocate for the craft all over the world, continuing 3 centuries of distinguished royal tradition at the very heart of English Freemasonry.
To order, brethren, to receive the most worshipful, the Grand Master.
As permanent master of these 3 lodges, I now call on my deputy masters.
Most worshipful Grand Master. Most worshipful Grand Master.
Most worshipful Grand Master.
Most worshipful Grand Master, I humbly ask you to complete the initiation of this worthy candidate for Freemasonry.
Adorn our ceremonies and forever remind us of our incomparable heritage, the birth of organized Freemasonry, stressing the deep and sincere loyalty and affection felt by the brethren of the United Grand Lodge of England for their Grand Master.
I had the pleasure of meeting 136 Grand Masters visiting from overseas at Freemasons Hall yesterday. Today, though, we are a meeting of more than 4,000 gathered from all around the world, from our own constitution and beyond. When the global Masonic family comes together to celebrate our past and renew our own pride and confidence in and enthusiasm for Freemasonry.
I hereby read the text of a letter sent today to Buckingham Palace. May it please your Majesty, we, the representatives of over 200,000 Freemasons under the United Grand Lodge of England, most respectfully express our continuing loyalty to your Majesty's throne and person in this, the 66th year of your long and distinguished reign, of His Royal Highness the Duke of Kent, as our much-loved and greatly respected Grand Master. We humbly thank God for preserving our order and fervently pray His blessings on your Majesty, so that our loyal devotion to your Majesty may long continue. Given at the Royal Albert Hall this 31st day of October, Anno Domini 2017. Her Majesty has been pleased to reply in the following terms. The Queen has asked me to thank you for your kind letter of loyal greetings on behalf of the representatives of the Freemasons under the United Grand Lodge of England, which are being celebrated on the 31st of October at the Royal Albert Hall. Her Majesty appreciated your thoughtfulness in writing as you did.
We leave the Royal Albert Hall even more proud of our ancient institution.
Worldwide, Freemasonry remains as important and relevant as ever. A global society of perhaps 6 million people.
As the globe embraced Freemasonry, enlightenment came.
I may not agree with what you say, but I shall defend to the death your right to say it.
None is more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe they are free.
Coat of arms of Donald Trump. What does it actually represent?
Well, this is rather interesting, actually. This is arcane Scottish heraldic law providing evidence of Donald Trump's deep Anglophilia, I would say, and also touches upon the royal prerogative. There we have the double-headed eagle representing his Scottish Germanic heritage.
The Masonic Chip program uses modern police-approved techniques to create a child identification kit.
And we take fingerprints. We also provide them with a swab for getting a DNA swab. And we also provide them with imprint where they can get an imprint of the child's teeth. So not only does it provide DNA as well as a swab, but it is also a source if you were using tracking dogs to provide a scent for the child.
You may be surprised to see who we found using tricks to cover up their license plates.
Apparently, they're law enforcement.
You know, in Hollywood and in the industry and the stuff we do, there's a lot of like insider secrets to keeping your career going, and a lot of insider secrets to making things tick.
The new age, and you had better wake up very quickly, for you've been had. We've all been had. By those whom we believed in and trusted, who never, ever, not once believed or trusted in us, and all the while have been about completing the great work, the grand experiment. They believe that the end justifies the means, and there is nothing, absolutely nothing, that they will not do to accomplish their ends.
Final mission to save mankind has failed. The 70-mile-wide asteroid known as Matilda is set to collide with Earth in exactly 3 weeks' time, and we'll be bringing you our countdown to the end of days, along with all your classic rock favorites.
Feel free to wear your casual Friday clothing pretty much any day of the week. And if anyone wants to be CFO. Anyone?
So, what are you doing with the rest of your life?
Catching up on some me time, find God.